And now, the moment you all have been waiting for. It's time for the Rad N Bad podcast by Hickory Learning Group. Here are your hosts, Mike Carrero and Sean Yoakum.
All right. Welcome back to the Rad N Bad podcast, where we stop pretending everything in ABA is fine and actually talk about what's broken. I'm Sean Yoakum, co-host of the Rad N Bad podcast. And today we got one of your favorite types of episodes. Who the hell is this? But first, I got to check in with my other co-host, Mr. Mike Carrero. Mike, how are you holding up today?
It's another sunny day. The weather's finally starting to kick up.
You know, it was freezing in North Carolina this morning. It was like 30 something degrees. I went outside to walk my dog and was like literally in a t-shirt and shorts and was like, why am I in Alaska right now?
And then 20 minutes later, it was 80 degrees.
80 degrees. Well, welcome to North Carolina weather. Unbelievable. But honestly, Mike, we got to be honest right now. I think the field is getting flooded with platforms, tools, AI, quote unquote solutions. Everybody's claiming they're here to fix autism care, faster diagnosis, better outcomes, less burnout, more access. This sounds incredible and great. Here's the difference though today. I actually believe we have someone on our podcast that is moving it in the direction that I think it is going. We're sitting down today with Amol from Frontera Health, and Frontera Health is coming in with an absolute big vision. They're building AI technology designed to help BCBAs work more efficiently. So that way companies can serve more kids. They're talking about improving operations, increasing productivity, reducing turnover, actually addressing burnout in the field. It's been running people into the grounds for years, actually caring about families, and looking to like accelerate the timeline for treatment so families aren't sitting on wait lists while these critical learning windows are slipping by. And I believe most importantly, Mike, they believe in AI like we do. And they believe when applied correctly in ABA, it can create more precise, more personalized treatment, leading to better outcomes and better lived experiences for children. But enough from me. If this vision is done right, I think I'm all in. So without further ado, we got to introduce Amol. Amol, how are you? Welcome to Rad N Bad. Tell us a little bit about yourself for anyone listening who might not know who you are, although I think that might not be true. I think everyone knows.
Okay, well, that's flattering. I'm happy to give you the whole background. Thank you guys for having me on. My background, I'm an engineer, a Silicon Valley guy for 2 decades. And in all things, I was actually in the agricultural technology sector. I built 2 very large companies. One is I invested in, one I built from scratch to almost 1,000 employees and billions of dollars in value. We were one of the first to digitally phenotype plants. We did a whole bunch of interesting things in rural America, and also was a venture capitalist. And you might say, well, how does that qualify you to do anything in the ABA therapy field? And it doesn't. I happened to have an older kid who was diagnosed with autism about 12 years ago when he was 2. And it was a shocking experience because honestly, I hadn't been touched by autism at all in my life. I didn't have a friend. I didn't have a cousin. I didn't have a relative. I didn't have anybody who I very vaguely knew about it. And my son was a pretty serious case of autism. He was nonverbal when he was diagnosed. And through the intervention and the boutique nature and quality nature of the intervention we got 12 years ago, he has had a remarkably good outcome. And in fact, so much so that it's almost hard to remember what he was like, and it's hard to remember what people told me to expect because the outcome was so vastly different. So here I am with a very positive view of therapy, ABA therapy, and everything because of what it did for my kid. To the point where I've invested, so $25 million nearly of my own money in all kinds of things in autism clinics, breakthrough science, technologies, with the hope that that experience that I had could be bottled and given to all the parents across the world that need it. But what I found over many years of doing this is that most of the stuff that was happening was really incremental. The mission creep has been huge in this industry. I think when my son was getting care, it was actually amazing. In 2.5 years, we had 2 RBTs. We had this super high quality therapy. They were great. The RBTs were almost as knowledgeable as the BCBAs. It was a very different experience than what I hear from parents today. And so Frontera was born a couple of years ago to try to to bring that back, but also scale it. in a way that's cost effective, using the most advanced AI technology, not basic wrappers, not things you could do on your own, but stuff that you need a team of AI researchers, clinicians cross-functionally working together to build. And that is, Sean, one of the products that you saw in action. And then there's a whole series of others behind that, some of which we've now started to present publicly around video phenotyping and whatnot that we hope to bring in the next year or two. So the idea is to reduce the burden on the clinician, but also scale their time so they can meet the needs that are out there in the world. That globally, I don't know what the supply and demand imbalance in the US, it's 3-to-1 globally, maybe hundreds to one. Be able to do quality therapy, which I know all clinicians aspire to do, and doing without having to work 90 hours a week. Like how are we going to build technology that does that? We need to scale their time and make them more efficient. We need to reduce the cognitive load on burdensome tasks, and we need to find absolutely groundbreaking ways to collect data. And those are the things that Frontera is working on.
Unbelievable. I mean, everything you just said, Amol, is things I think like myself and Mike, we preach about on the podcast. Like the industry needs to change. There needs to be access to care. We need to have cutting edge technology. There needs to be more efficient practice. I'm just excited to have you and just to know that you have like, there's like this personal interest behind it. And it's not just like, hey, here I am, I'm coming into the space. It's like, no, like you're on a mission to like have families have the exact same experience that you have. And you're putting your money where your mouth is and basically just being like, no, everyone's going to get this.
Yeah, Sean, to be very clear, like I will not run this business purely for profit. And we've proven that. We are the first ones in the industry who give away our technology. A clinic, if you decide you want to serve homeless or foster kids, you will get a credit on your account for any patient that you're serving on that front. We want to encourage people to take on the hardest cases. We have a starter program where we offer $15,000 grants to new clinicians who want to, start their own thing, those boutique practices from scratch and be efficient, with technology. So it's not only putting the money where our mouth is, it's like that's the only thing, that's the way Frontera operates. And we will not do the things that others do. Long-term contracts, locking you in, raise your price 12% every year, lobbying. We don't lobby. We don't do any of that stuff. It's all about the parents and how to get access to care. And the clinic to me is not only a worthwhile, but an altruistic conduit to that if it's run properly. And so from our perspective, we have to support the clinics to be able to produce that care. But the system as a whole also has to allow that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, to kind of be a mime and reiterate exactly what Sean said, like that directly correlates with everything that we're looking to do. And I think one of the most important things to me, and I think to those listening that you just said, is you're focusing on the parents and the family as a whole, right? It's not about, oh, I can make everything better for the provider, or I can make everything better for the clinician and the clinic and all of that. That's great, but fancy tools and, pristine paperwork does nothing for the child, right? The time that you spend and you're able to actually focus on training or focus on quality intervention and now have pretty paperwork is worth its weight in gold. And I think that tandem with access to care and giving a, pretty package of, on both sides, you as the family have the support that you need and us as the providers have the support that we need. Well, at the end of the day, now we're just focusing on what truly matters, which is supporting each other through behavior change and education.
That's exactly right. And the technologies, if we have R&D dollars to invest here from a tech standpoint, I want to invest in things that are solely going to improve access to care for families. The clinics as a conduit for that, or technologies that the parent can directly access, like our app and our free expert chat that we just rolled out. But the things we do not do, interestingly, is like we don't have any technology for ERP systems or billing. And there's a very simple reason for that. It's because they have no impact on access to care. I do not care about that shit. I swear, I do not care about billing. And I know that it matters to a clinic, and I want the clinic to be able to collect their bills, but that's somebody else's problem, right? Like ours is all that access to care, reducing the time to assessment, reassessment, reducing the time to diagnosis, allowing the parent free access to care navigation tools and ways to get faster to care. someone else can deal with the like billing. Like billing is not going to improve your access to care for a parent. I think it's important for a clinic, but it's not our focus. And that's like very important distinction, I believe, between Frontera and every other company in this sector who will say, oh, well, I do data collection, I do billing, I do this, I do that. And some of those companies are actually really good at what they do, but their mission is to serve the workflow of the clinic. And what we want to do is make the clinic a vastly, vastly different enterprise from an efficiency standpoint, lower their costs, improve the quality to care, and thereby affect this global issue of parents getting access to ABA therapy, quality ABA therapy when they need it.
Man, I don't even know where to go. I mean, this could be the whole episode right there.
Look, I have no filter, so usually they don't.
No, you're good. You say whatever you want.
I was at the CASP conference. I have no filter. I don't like seats. I don't like software. I don't like any of that stuff. And you know what? Like that's just, to me, I think what this industry really needs is people to think back to why the industry exists. So if I may say something, I want to come back to like how good the quality of care was for my son. Like I thought it was magic. Like when I saw him changing and eager to go to his therapy sessions to meet his RBT, whose name was Brian. I have these videos of him, some of his first words are like, Brian, he's like wanting to go.
Shout out Brian.
Yeah. Learning through play. Yeah. And I'm like, that was what I experienced and why I had such a positive view. Why is there this cynical cloud over this industry today? Because that's not the experience I had 12 years ago. And so to me, that's the fix. If I just frame it up, I think we all know how important therapy is. In intervention, we know I'm a proponent of ABA therapy. It's just, I don't know what's happened to turn this into kind of this cynical view of our industry.
So to sum it up for the viewers, right? Again, I think it's really hard to not have heard about you and Frontera, but for those of them who might not have, what is the problem that you are actually obsessed with solving, and how are you going about that?
Yeah, great question. The problem we're obsessed with solving is access to quality care for parents globally. Very simplistically, I think we just solved that problem. If we get into quality care faster, and if all parents can get it when they need it, and they're engaged and encouraged to stay, I think that the long-term cost of autism care will come way down because they'll have outcomes like my son did. And I think that practitioners will be very, very happy in their jobs because they love those results, right? Practitioners are very happy when they see, clinicians are very happy when they see those results. So we want to improve, our single goal is improving access to quality care. Now, the ways that we do that, to answer your question, our first products that are out in the market are diagnosis builder, assessment builder, and reassessment builder. Very simplistically, these technologies use natural language processing, AI, and inferencing technology and capability to be able to produce those reports in a shorter period of time so that as a clinician, you don't need to waste your time on administrative tasks. Just to be clear, it's still your report. You edit the report, you submit the report, but all of those hours that you're burning out writing reports and trying to submit them, many times potentially making a minor mistake and getting rejected, some various things happening along the way that aren't beneficial to you or your clinic, we take that out of the picture by offering this very, very vast technology that's customizable to your clinic. We offer it. So for psychologists that are doing diagnoses, we have that report builder for diagnosis. Sean has seen it for the assessment, and now we have reassessment as well. This last month, we're growing 30-40% month over month. We had over 1,200 reports on the platform. That is the way we're doing it. And the way that improves access to quality care is it reduces the amount of time that these clinicians have to spend on burdensome tasks so that they can spend more time with the family. That produces a higher quality interaction, I believe a higher quality report at the end of the day, a better behavior plan, and ultimately better therapy. And the diagnosis side, when I was waiting for my diagnosis, when I private paid $7,000 12 years ago for mine in Northern California, it took 9 weeks for me to get the report back.
That's crazy.
9 weeks. And with this technology, that's a huge window of time. So in terms of access to quality care, if we can cut that down to a week or two, I'm not blaming the psychologist or the clinician. It's a burdensome report. Like, it's very complicated to put together. Artificial intelligence can help with that. It's still your work product. So that's how we're doing it today. Mike, I would say next, we just rolled out this parent app, which is free. That'll be largely a care navigation and information tool where parents can go in and for free, they can join a community or chat with a master's, potentially PhD level expert for free and get navigated to the right care. How do you take the right next step? How do you, when you're feeling the anxiety and you just got a diagnosis, I got to get into therapy. What do I do now? I'm in therapy. I'm not sure if it's working. What do I do now? Right? I'm pre-diagnosis. I'm worried about my kid. Those are the ways that we're solving it through our parent app and through these assessment and diagnosis builders.
Wow. I mean, that transparently, that's really what the field needs in terms of like an ability to do things that truly benefits everybody, but also when you look at time, right? I'll tell you as a provider, right? When I'm working with a family, the last thing I want to be doing is typing. That's the very last thing that I want to be doing.
I know this
Right?
for a fact that Mike does not like typing. I know this for a
I
fact.
am a hands-on person. We are going to dive deep into some BST and we are going to do these things. And like, the more you can take off of my plate theoretically, right? Because obviously I'm going to put the plate in front of you so you can make it make sense. I also want to make a distinction for those who are listening, because I know AI has some controversy associated with it. You touched on it earlier, but the AI that you're using requires an actual team that is consistently developing and being a part of it, not like a simple like chat GPT style bot where it's just like, give me a report for something that I need. And I think it's important that people understand the clarification there, because one is, again, transparently not good. And the other one has a full team behind it that's going to be present and available to make it efficient and continue to make it more efficient, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. If you were to go so far as a clinician to just take something off the shelf and start using it, one of two things is going to happen. Okay. You're either going to become even more error prone from the standpoint of what's going to show up in the report. And that has implications for the clinic. It has implications for you individually. But also from a quality standpoint, you know, understanding and having cohesion with the output is a very important thing. And there has to be knowledge, some customization that happens in order for that to be the case. We've spent quite a bit of time building these products, and we know the differences between someone who just takes something off the shelf and tries to use that to speed up their process of writing a report versus using something that has been built by AI researchers, clinicians, engineers working together to make sure that it's the product that you need so that from a clinical standpoint, you don't end up wasting time inadvertently. Like you send it in and it gets rejected. It's low quality. It hallucinates. A whole bunch of different things that happen with AI that we take painstaking investment and measures to make sure it doesn't happen with our customers.
That's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I was playing around with the software the other day and I went through the onboarding, like to test the assessment writing. And I was just sitting there blown away by, oh, upload this, upload that, put this in here. Oh, you can also like, oh, by the way, you don't like how that's written. You can regenerate it, or you can even go in and just type into the report if you don't like the way something's worded. So it's got this AI as, I almost look at it as like the Frontera AI is functioning as like a BCABA, and then you as the clinician or the BCBA that's reviewing it to make sure it looks good. You have a human check to it. I also think, like you said, the access to care thing, the next thing I think of is, if I'm a parent and I've been sitting on a wait list for like 6 months trying to get like an ASD diagnosis for my kid. If you do get this right with access to care, what would that actually change for me? Like what does day one look like? What does the next 30 days look like? And then what's different a year later?
Well, firstly, so a couple of things. Firstly, you can't sit on a wait list for 6 months. Like that in and of itself has to stop. So the first thing that changes is ideally, and social media, by the way, is going to be key for this. I think that, pediatricians, bless their soul, are very overworked. And the time to diagnosis, getting it early, there's a whole bunch of encumbrances in the system to getting there, which I actually think social media and technology like what Frontera is going to bring through its app can get around. Because if parents are willing to share certain things, or if certain things are accessible already, you can know pretty quickly, like, okay, does this kid need to be referred for a diagnosis or not? Right. We don't need to wait 6 more. Well, in the first year of my kid's life, I think after the first month, I think I saw my pediatrician twice
Wow.
for like 18 minutes or 19 minutes. I remember like keeping track. So I was like, how would you know if like this the kid has autism or is not? I knew he wasn't walking on time. I knew he wasn't speaking on time. I knew that. I was telling him, the doctor knew that, but 19 minutes, you're on to the next patient. And it's like, okay, why now what? Now I'm sitting there, I walk out, I don't know anything about autism. I don't know if this is really it or not. And most of the time they'll say, don't worry about it. So the first thing, Sean, I would say is, practically speaking, we got to get faster to care. So let's say on average, a kid's getting diagnosed when they're 4.5 or 5. If we can just bring that down to 3 years of age, or better yet, 2 years or 18 months, there's some technologies you're going to hear an announcement. We're doing a big partnership around early detection in the next few months. We're going to bring out, and that could be as young as like a few months old, which boggles the mind, but there's now biochemical markers for autism and other things that you could do. But that is the first step. Can't sit on a wait list for 6 months. And so we got to reach the parent faster, get to them earlier, and then it's matching and saying, okay, I actually think one of the problems, the wait list problems, is that if you're a small clinic, there's quite a few small clinics out there, as you know, you don't have the advertising or anything like that for people to know that you even exist. I've had a lot of parents who came through our app already just in the first month or two who are like, I'm sitting on a wait list. I'm like, well, I know a clinic in that region. They just happen to be smaller, so you probably never heard of them. But if we can create just that information through, say, an app connectivity, then the parent might know, okay, well, one of the large clinics that I'm familiar with, that has a wait list, but there's a smaller boutique clinic that is available. And actually, I can go and enroll my kid there because they have insurance and they take it and everything else. So Sean, I think in the first place, we got to eliminate the wait list. And related to that, we have to have the tools to capture information sooner. I call it an externally EHR or parent EHR, so that the wait list time goes down, but we also get to the child at a younger age, so that the intervention can be profoundly more impactful. Then there's the tools. It's like, okay, I got to a psychologist. Am I going to have to wait 9 weeks like I did because it takes so long to write the report? Well, hopefully they use Frontera and not. That won't be the case. Then I get to assessment. Do I spend an hour and my clinician scribbling the notes, or are they having an empathetic conversation with me as a parent and then moving quickly to assessment and getting my kid right into therapy? So on and so forth. So that system, kind of works to improve both the access and the quality.
Well, first one, I mean, the beauty of that process, just knowing what we know about like ABA as a whole right now, like at least in the US, right? With all of the dramatic changes that are happening, the access to care can be very, very difficult, especially with the misalignment with values of certain service providers, to also include the fact that when they either create new restrictions or put in different sanctions on service delivery, that's going to then make those wait lists even longer, right? We've seen states put hour caps. We've seen, durations of services for X amount of years, things of that nature. Time is the most important portion here. And especially given the change, being able to be at the forefront of that and really be a pillar to support people is super beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the changes you're talking about. Okay. I think those were always going to happen if you saw the way the industry was going. And I know that there are a lot of people who would say that a lot of these changes are unfortunate. And I think that is actually, in the sense of like opportunity for parents, I don't want to take any opportunity away from parents, but I think this change is solid in the sense of people having to now innovate and say, okay, maybe I do need to think about other care models. Maybe parent coaching and parent mediated therapies aren't a bad thing. And maybe a lot of kids can actually benefit from those. We've seen proof of that in California, actually, quite a bit of proof of that with one of our partners. And so my feeling is that kind of disruption that's happening in the sector right now, I think will bring about ultimately positive change, even though it's frustrating for probably some of the clinics and others right now.
Yeah, and honestly, Amol, when I heard you speaking of that, like you're absolutely right. Like we have this whole thing kind of ass backwards right now with like with like how we're diagnosing and like how we're providing care. What's interesting to me is the system right now is built, and I know where we're at in rural North Carolina. It's one of the reasons why we partnered with Early Point as an agency to do some of the early diagnostic assessments just in our area, right? Um, and what I've noticed is families are waiting months, sometimes a year. And the really shitty part about that, Amol, is it's just to get a label. It's not even to get support. It's not even to get coaching. It's not even to get direction. We're talking about a label on a child, which is like when you actually think of it like that, it's like, yay, we got the label. It's like we're celebrating that progress, but it's not progress. It's a bottleneck. And I think you're absolutely correct. Like we need to fix that problem because if a parent raises a concern, we need to be within like days, not months, like have some sort of clarity, have a way that we can understand how the kid learns, how, what to do with that week. And we're not sitting waiting for a system to catch up. Like the diagnosis has to become a step and not like the starting line of care. Um, I talk with Mike all the time about this. Like parents have 168 hours in a week. And regardless of how much time you spend in therapy, the remaining amount of that time you're spent with a caregiver. So like you're saying with organizations like Catalate out in California, like with the PMI model, it makes sense why you're seeing the progress because if you can get that caregiver to buy in and buy into the model, that's where you're seeing the most success.
Yeah. And your point about this is something that we did where because that diagnosis took forever and the report is taking forever, I just started the therapy and I said, look, I'll private pay this until the diagnosis report is a gateway to insurance. But if you know something's wrong with your kid and you have the means, you go do it. Unfortunately, not many people can do that because the therapy is so expensive. And that's what makes the proper diagnosis very critical in terms of getting a parent immediate access to that absolutely needed care. But to your point, are there models that are low cost where someone can opt in and say, look, I think there's something going on with my kid and I'd love to get some coaching. I'd love to get in front of an expert and understand or the things I could be doing right now. Motivated parents, I've seen this on my TikTok channel, are thirsty for information. Like they want guidance, they want input from experts and they can't get it. And so they'll come on my TikTok live as a parent, me just, ranting, right? Or talking. It's if there was a system set up that they could go to, that's why I created the Frontera app is like, okay, here's a free access to an expert for you for your next step. Eventually you're going to have to choose a clinic. You're going to have to get to a type of therapy that maybe you like parent mediated, maybe you want the other models, whatever it is, that'll be up to you as a family. But for your next step and giving you some peace of mind in terms of navigating to care, working through all those little complex issues that come up, I think you need that support. And that, to your point, no point in the process needs to be a gate to that, including diagnosis.
Great point, Amol. Great point.
I mean, the awesome part of it, right? And I'm gonna keep circling back to time because I think that again, like you referenced, it's the most important piece, right? With getting in earlier, guess what? We get out earlier, which means you have far more opportunities for independence. You have far more opportunities for those skill acquisitions to occur. And like we talked about previously, you're improving everybody's time, which means the quality is going to skyrocket through the roof. So the way I'm thinking of this is like Batman and Robin, right? So I'm Batman, right? Please scroll over that wonderful audio. And then you're Robin, where I'm going to be able to do my job even more effectively because I've got you by my side, right? Because you're not serving as a replacement, you're serving as an addition and support to make us even more beneficial and impactful. So for those who might speculate, right? Let's play a little bit of devil's advocate. Where's that line for you guys between augmentation and that replacement of clinical judgment?
Well, I mean, it's really simple. You actually can't replace the clinical. There's no way to do that. The system is built around clinical judgment. It's also happens to be what the parents want, right? I don't think the parents want a chatbot giving them their clinical solution. Nobody's asking for that. I think people who fret about like AI replacing them, I think it's like conspiracy theories are abound, but there isn't any way for that to happen. And I think that on the other hand, so few of the people who need care get it when they need it in the US and globally. I can tell you, I've learned a lot about globally. It's like literally nobody gets it. So we have to expand the reach of that clinical judgment. Like if that doesn't happen, then these needs are never going to get served. So we can't sit here as conspiracy theorists or cynical. We have to solve the problem with technology, but it's always extending the reach or augmenting the clinical judgment. And you can't displace it. Like that's the thing is people speculate about that stuff, but I don't know a scenario in which it can happen. I think you can make a clinician far, far more scalable, far, far more efficient, serving far, far more families in different ways, like we just talked about. But I don't see how you replace the clinical judgment, especially in a field like this, where they say like that there's a whole thing with like radiologists right now, where the image recognition, they're doing all these tests and saying the AI is just as good as a radiologist. But I think we all know with autism, like every single kid is different. So you actually need the individualized clinical judgment even more. And then there's a lot of external factors. There's the schools, there's the household situation, there's a whole bunch of other things, comorbidities. So I just don't see a scenario where that happens. And that's not Frontera's goal. Our goal is absolutely to make the clinician far more efficient and scalable. Hopefully, almost shockingly so. But no, we can't replace clinical judgment. It's not possible.
I had a feeling that was going to be the answer. Go ahead, John.
Mike, you know what that reminds me of? Do either of you watch Love on the Spectrum?
I do not.
I've not, but I was thinking.
Okay. So there's a scene on Love on the Spectrum where I forgot who the kid is, but he's talking about like how his mom is like afraid of like knives. I might be getting this totally wrong. And he goes, "It is just a tool. It's an inanimate object. Like, okay, knife, go, kill. Go, stab. See, it's a tool. It's in the hand of whoever's going to use the tool. So like you can, like Amol, you can build this beautiful technology. I agree with you. I don't think it's ever going to replace a clinician. But what I fear with it is that, just like you said, the mission is to make a clinician like more precise, more accountable, more efficient, be able to like look at something and kind of figure out, okay, this is what I want to do decision wise that's going to impact the kids, the families, and the outcomes. I think the line becomes blurred where if we're now making a clinician more dependent and actually less aware of what's actually driving the decisions, and it then turns into, okay, who's actually steering the ship? Is it the AI that's steering the ship, or is it the clinician? To me, someone who's been in the field for a long time, I think AI is the greatest thing ever, because I'm just like, this is making me so much more efficient because I can utilize this technology. My fear is when you get that 1 year BCBA without the life experience that then is on the tool and is allowing it to steer. Now, what I love about your technology, Amol, is it's built by clinicians. So it's almost like you have clinicians that are feeding it and it's learning from those clinicians. So in theory, what I'm hearing is a newer BCBA who's using Frontera is actually getting clinical support from clinicians just through AI.
Yeah, yes. And I think you can use, and I've seen clinics use our assessment and reassessment tools as teaching opportunities, as learning opportunities. Like there's a lot of ways to use that. Ultimately, your point about how one uses AI, when we turn this technology over to a clinic, it's up to them to use it how they want to, right? We put the guardrails on it from a safety standpoint, from a technology standpoint, from a depth standpoint. But to your point, like if I'm a clinical director and I adopt Frontera technology, it's up to me how I want to use that, right? I can say that, well, I'm going to have my less experienced BCBAs do at least half of their assessments in the traditional way because I want them to learn, or I'm going to check, or I'm going to use this as part of the training system, or whatever the case is. Those are all options that are available to the clinic, right? The tool is just simply there for you to make far more efficient, your scaling, growing organization. so that you can do more, and also to reduce that, again, administrative burden. Because those hours reinvested in spending time with the family or other things could have a profound impact on the quality of care, ultimately, the relationship with the family. I mean, I had a great relationship with our RBTs and our BCBAs over the years when my son was in therapy. And I thought they did a phenomenal job. And then this was, again, there was no Frontera apps or anything like that back then. So that is a huge part of it. That's part of keeping the parent engaged. It's part of staying in therapy so you don't quit. You show up for more sessions. One of the funny things I always talk about is, the cancel rate and the turnover rates are so high, right? Like the cancel rate in clinics is like 20, 30%. People don't show up. I'm like, what if you just got people to show up for therapy? Like that in and of itself would be a huge gain in quality, right? But how do you do that? If you have a connection and a closer relationship with the family, and you are encouraging them, you are coaching them, you're doing the parent training modules, their odds of showing up are much higher. You need time for that. And if your time is taken with burdensome administrative tasks, that's less you can invest in those other things that I think matter way more.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of work smarter, not harder situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't doubt that there are some clinicians that can put in all the extra hours, and they probably would, but that isn't the intention here either. We got to find a way to serve all these unmet needs without making people work 80 hours a week.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I had another question. And it had to do with like, you hear a lot of like tech companies. You kind of said it like when you go to like these big conferences and stuff, it's like you have a bunch of tech companies that are there that are basically selling, different versions of themselves, and they're great at what they do. I want to keep talking about like kind of what you're building, because like I said, everyone is always saying like, okay, we're innovating this, we're innovating that. But essentially when you then peel it back, it's like, okay, here's a new wrapper and packaging on like the same fucking system. It's like the same thing, right? What's something I mean, you've answered this already, but like wrap it up for no pun intended. Something that Frontera does today that a traditional ABA provider just flat out cannot do without. I think the assessment tool, but there's got to be other things as well.
I think that the aspects of the assessment tool, which include things like the voice intake, not having to take notes, the ability to infer and synthesize that data into a report, same with the reassessment. Those are things that are, in my opinion, they take a lot of time to refine and then also customize. We help customize to the clinic's needs from their payer mix, all of that other stuff that they have. So that is something that I do not think a clinic can do without, due to both the scrutiny that's happening as well as that need to reduce burnout, be more efficient with time. But the other thing, Sean, uh, from a clinic perspective, is we are going to come out at some point with this video, and the ability to passively collect data from video, the ability to remotely supervise and quality control, teach and train RBTs. We didn't talk that much about it here because it's still early and this is a very, very hard technology to build, but that has the ability to really, really scale. And that's something I don't think any clinic is going to want to do without once it's ready for market. There's a whole bunch of technical and other cost things we need to do. The assessment ones, same thing. Those are ready for market right now. And then a parent, I was finished by saying the parent, I don't think can do without the app. I wish there was a free app like Frontera when I was going through this. And despite being able to afford it, I had to pay hundreds of dollars an hour to experts anytime I wanted to consult on anything. Like, okay, I'm trying to make a decision, like, should I go back and put the kid in kindergarten or stick with ABA? Should I do it half day? What do I do about some issues that come up? There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens in the world of a parent that the clinic doesn't handle for you because it's not billable time. And so, like, you need something like this if you're a parent. Otherwise, like, all these topics that come up, who are you going to turn to? So that's the other thing. I think clinics cannot do without the assessment technology and the soon to come video technologies. And I think parents cannot do without this app, because I think it's your opportunity to navigate to that great outcome that I think every motivated parent wants. Because once you've downloaded that app, we know you're very motivated. And at that point, it's all about getting to that clinic, the right one, as quickly as possible, making good decisions with key things like school and other stuff like that in managing through that process, which is burdensome.
Mike, do you remember when I came back from Cal Alba and I was like, I met Amol, and Amol was talking about this crazy like
I
video
remember that.
video technology where we could like actually collect data. And the first words out of my mouth from Amol were like audit proof. Like right there, like that eliminates everything.
Well, I do think I will tell you, Sean, one of the first things we're considering doing with the video is rolling it out simply as video. Like you don't need to use all the fancy AI algorithms around it. Just make sure that you have video of every session, because we can do things like tag speakers. We have built technology to do speaker tagging, voice identification, of course, transcription and all the basic things with computer vision. But to your point, it's definitive proof that, you're doing what you said you were doing. So if someone ever asks, you have that available. And so I actually think and many clinics already do physical in-person clinics have video, but I highly recommend it for anybody who doesn't do it today for that very reason. I think there's all these other use cases, RBT training, supervision, quality control, so on and so forth.
So in that last summary that you just gave, I think that's the most important thing for like me when I think of like how I would want to use that tool, right? From a theoretical business perspective, right? It's audit proof, right? You can't say that did or didn't happen because it comes very, very objectively, right? Which is great for protecting funders and stakeholders and families and all of that. The way I think of it is, I'm going to put my wonderful BCBA hat on and go, I can effectively train way more efficiently and more effectively because the nuances of this is what the behavior looks like versus this is what the behavior does not look like, and we set our parameters for those things. Well, now we have accurate data that is reliable. And I'm not sitting here, and again, this is not a dig on RBTs or BCBAs. This is just the human error aspect of things. When you and I look at something, even if we have a black and white definition in front of us, there's always going to be some subjective lived experience, as opposed to video being reviewed that is then reviewed by AI and generates whether or not it did or didn't happen according to those parameters. You can't deny it.
Also, don't forget, there's also many scenarios where you're relying on information that something that happened that they're reporting to you that there's it wasn't synchronous. Oh, we had this really, really tough meltdown today and we weren't able to redirect the kid. Well, what was the antecedent to that? Well, I think it was this. Well, you wouldn't believe how off base that can be. And if you've ever compared like the punching data into iPads, which is like the state of the art today, right, for data collection versus actually having information on it, I think it could be a vast improvement in quality and supervision. This is where we believe, someday a BCBA could supervise 5 times, 10 times as much with less time, because the machine really assists you in doing that. And that is the world of the future, in my opinion, right? Like that increased productivity starts with things like assessment and reassessment and diagnosis, but ultimately it gets to that comprehensive phenotyping of the kid, tools in the hands of parents as well as clinicians, and then massive, massive amounts of information that give you a much bigger perspective on the child and allow you to do the intervention in just such an efficient and high caliber way.
Outstanding.
Man.
Just genuinely outstanding. So one of the things that I can't stress enough that I appreciate about you and what Frontera is doing is the fact that regardless of whatever question you have found here, every single time you circle back to family and access, right? Yes. And that is, again, as providers, that's the most important thing to us is parent engagement and being actually participatory in sessions. So you're focused on access. How does Frontera actually reach families that either usually fall through the cracks or, are potentially marked to fall through the cracks? And how do you ensure that faster access isn't just surface level engagement where they get a diagnosis, but don't get the support that they need for real behavior change?
Yeah, the reaching parents who need it the most is a very good question. And that is a central goal of Frontera. I've told our team that, we have to be willing to go as further than anybody else on this point, right? And I think some of the things we've done is we've incentivized clinics to take on hard cases. So we can't solve every single problem ourselves, obviously. So we go to clinics and we say, look, you use our token system to buy our reports. If you say you serve 50 kids and 5 of them are either unhoused or foster kids, we'll give you a 5 out of 50, we'll give you a 10% credit on your bill. No questions asked. So effectively, you can use our technology for free on any case where it's a homeless kid, homeless family, or a foster kid. Okay. And in some clinics, that can be 5-10% of their patient base. And Mike, that's a way of us saying, okay, our technology doesn't solve but we're encouraging you as a clinic, and we will do our part, right? In terms of making it easier financially, that you don't have to pay for a token when you use our report if it's a foster kid or homeless. Okay. The other way is the app, and we're trying to keep the app free. I believe we'll be able to, from a community perspective, as well as that chat perspective, so that it doesn't matter what income level you are. You're in rural America, you're in urban setting, wherever you are, you can use that app. Okay. And it's free. And if you're a motivated parent, you can use it anytime, day or night, and someone's going to respond to you. Right. And to your point, what we need to do and what we're working out with that app is we're looking for partners who we know we can surface then quality opportunities for the parent. So if they're saying, okay, I'm in rural North Carolina and I've been sitting on a wait list. Well, did you know about Hickory? Right? Did you know about Sean? And
Everyone knows about us, Amol.
yeah, I was but they don't.
They don't.
And that's the issue. They don't. Most of the parents don't even know about the big brand name chains, much less the smaller boutique clinics. So the app, to your point, Mike, to make it like more than just a nice conversation or a nice chat, we need to surface those opportunities for them. Say, oh, have you looked at Hickory? They have availability. Can I, provide you an introduction, right? And that will take a little bit of time to build up both that data set, that connectivity, and that use. But we're already seeing that happen in cases, even in the first month already.
Awesome. And so in that, right, you talk about, I know we talked a little bit about marketing, right? And us as an organization, we don't. We are a grassroots organization where we do like word of mouth is our biggest like marketing tool. Because we genuinely believe, the proof is in the pudding. If you are putting in the work and being able to support families and give them the support that they need, they continue to talk. Because as you're probably no stranger to, because you've seen it, you've seen the wonderful side of what a science can do, but you've also either seen or heard just how poor it can be implemented, right? And so with a tool like this, where you're promoting access, are you anticipating any need for like safeguards for like quality assurance and quality care to, the last thing I want is a parent who's going, I have a great opportunity, I want to get into services, and they go, where? And the dart lands on the wrong side of the map.
Yeah. Okay. So on that point, to be honest, I would love to screen every single clinic that's on our app, and we're going to try to find a way to do all those things. But I think this kind of scrutiny that the system is bringing right now is actually very helpful on that front. So what's happening is, I think who is getting scrutinized the most is people who've been really taking advantage of the system and probably not focused on quality of care or anything like that. So there has to be some system level safeguards. If you understand what I'm saying, like it can't be fully on us, but then in addition, we will put in the criteria and say, like, ideally it's a clinic we know, right? I mean, clinics that we do business with, we know them very, very well. There may be criteria that we ask for. So we're still working through all of that in terms of how to qualify that it's quality, right? And then the other is the fit. Like, some parents are looking for in-home care. Some parents are looking for in-clinic. Some are looking for parent-mediated. Most parents actually don't know about parent-mediated therapy. Like, there's only a few regions of the country right now where it's become prevalent. And in those regions, it's very popular. But in other parts of the country, it's not known. So they may not even know about some of the options that are available. So those are all things that both the system as well as Frontera has to work hard to make sure that all those options are on the table and they're good options.
Yeah. And that's, I agree with you, Amol. Like, that is not, like you said before, like, you're not trying to solve all of the problems, right? You have your mission of what you're trying to solve. You're looking at solving, okay, I need to solve the access to care problem.
And access to quality, Sean, I think what Mike was asking. So we have to trust that we want the system to be quality. And then we want to make sure that the people who the parents go to are quality, but we also need supply of that. And that's where the bandwidth and the clinical
You hit my point that I was going to get at. It's like you can get them to the door faster, but if we're continuing to drop families in the exact same system where it's not good quality care, I don't think, that's solely on your end. I think that's us as providers too. We have to do a better job of
Yeah.
training and getting actual quality providers that are, like you said, know exactly how to work with families. Big part, me and Mike talk about this all the time. There is nothing in our education that teaches you how to handle a family dynamic within our certification. I think part of the reason why I'm fairly passionate about family and caregiver training, one, I have a child, and two, I have the lived experience, right? Um, it's not part of the education currently, or at least when I was in school to be a BCBA, it wasn't part of that. Um, you know, I think Frontera's got this ability to create this beautiful, access to quality care, but you also need the clinicians to do their part, because if we scale the access without scaling the actual depth, I don't think we actually solve the problem. I think what happens is we're just distributing the problem wider. So I don't think the question is actually, can we reach more families? It's okay. Once we do reach more families, are we actually building something that changes what happens in their home on a Tuesday night?
Yeah. That's where this kind of scrutiny on the industry maybe is a good thing.
Yeah.
To kind of make sure that people focus on those quality metrics, know that people are checking, right? The industry's had unfettered growth, which in some ways makes sense given all the demand for autism. But to your point, we want it to be quality care. So again, I don't want the options for parents to go down, but I want the supply of quality options to go up. And the only way that's going to happen is with this technology intervention that allows those quality options to be far more scalable. That's the only way. Otherwise, you're going to have less options. Maybe they are quality, but the waitlist problem gets even longer. We need to solve both of those problems.
Yeah, the space doesn't need more companies, and it needs people who actually give a damn about the families and what happens to the families. So, for you personally, I think you've kind of hit this on the nail, but I kind of want to sum it up. Like, what does success for you actually look like? I'm not even talking Frontera. I'm not even talking like investors. I'm talking just for you. Like, what does success look like for you?
Personally, or what I
Yeah.
want to see in the industry?
You
Well,
personally, and also the industry.
for me, I really, more than anything, again, I want to bring it back to, I want parents to um have the experience that I have had with autism, which is a positive one. There is a lot of cynical parents out there too, by the way, who maybe ABA therapy didn't work for them, or they tried every intervention and still they didn't see the progress, or they never got access to care, or they were encumbered by all the things you see in social media and the news about autism, which can be, all kinds of different things, as you know. It's not like other conditions. It's just sort of prone to rumor, innuendo, conspiracy theories, all of those things for whatever reason. But to me, what success looks like is that a parent can get what they want when they need it. And I can't, I want to do everything possible to educate the parent and help them to engage. And then it's on them, right? I mean, you can have parents who are educated, offered interventions, offered free expert chat, offered services under their insurance, and they don't take them. I've seen that before. Okay. And I've seen parents who sit on a wait list for 2 years and desperately want intervention and can't get it. And that all seems inequitable to me. And that's what I want to, for me, success would look like the motivated parents who want those interventions, they're able to get them. And I'm talking globally, not just in the United States.
Yeah, so a family doesn't feel lost anymore. Like,
Yeah.
they're not
Doesn't feel
sitting in
lost.
sitting in uncertainty. They're not waiting months just to be told what they already suspect. And I think when a family can say, "Okay, I understand my child. I know what to do next." And Mike, we talk about this too, like not perfectly. Like we're not expecting everyone to handle stuff perfectly, but I think confidently. Because I think the hardest part for most families isn't just access; it's the gap between the information and the action. I think that's what you're trying to solve, Mo, with Frontier.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And it's going to take some innovators and people who have this mindset all focused around the parents to try to make that happen. And it's going to take some dollars. It's going to take other things that I think haven't been in this sector. The dollars have all gone to, generally rolling up clinics or trying to enter markets that look juicy from a rate standpoint. only to learn that, okay, when you do that, what do? They become aware of the problem, the budgets swell, and then they cut the rates. And now you've exacerbated the problem for parents. Frustrating to me that that happens, but that is kind of the opportunity I see with all the, um, cloud that's come over our industry, is that I think it can reset potentially and grow in a better way. And that's the optimistic side of me saying, like, look, this is the opportunities now for that.
You should have used a
100%.
UFO or a meteor instead of a tidal wave, Sean. Good old reset, right? No, but I think one of the if I had to sum up everything we've talked about, I think the word I would use would just be support, right? And I would put that in both avenues and all avenues of care. And so to kind of wrap it all up together, where do you see this? And again, you don't have to give away too much. Where do you see this in 3 to 5 years, right? As an ABA space, as a healthcare space, where are you envisioning this level of quality care going in the next 3 to 5 years?
For the industry. Yeah, I think that new care models will be transformative to this sector in the United States. I think that those that are paying the bills will demand them, because they are now, you're seeing increasing clinical data that something like parent-mediated therapies can work, and parents want them. So you now have something that's lower cost, parents want it, and it has high quality outcomes, and you have data of that. I think that you're going to see a groundswell of people saying, let me take a look at these other models, including parent mediated therapies. That's one thing that I'm almost certain is going to happen. In fact, almost has to, in order to meet the needs of, like, we already know that the needs aren't being met and there's scrutiny on the existing system. So I think that's one. Number two, I think that parents will have a lot more self-serve options to get going. And this is where Frontera comes in, right? To be able to say, I'm a parent, I'm concerned, I'm going to take some initiative right now, right? I'm not going to sit around and wait for my next pediatrician appointment. I'm not going to sit around and wait for, I'm going to get, to the issue, because I think one of the benefits of social media, it's making information a lot more aware. Like, you can go on social media and you can see what signs and symptoms of autism are. And as a parent, you can look at that video on social media and say, my kid's kind of doing that. And I feel I'm concerned. And that could initiate, like, there's such a network effect to it. And so I think in the next 3 to 5 years, social channels will become a very primary apparatus for parents to seek information, get information, and get to care faster, which I think is going to be a very, very positive thing. And then the third thing, and then this is the one that's to me is the biggest moonshot, is I think the ability to, like, digitally phenotype and collect massive amounts of data, I think has the ability to make therapy even better. I think you're going to know more about every individual kid than you ever have before. Not just what happened to the clinic, not just what the RBT typed into the iPad, or punched into the iPad, as they say, like, this is 25% of every session right here. It's like that. And you're going to have all of that information at your fingertips. So imagine, as a clinician, the things you can do when because a parent's sharing information with you about what's going on in the home. Are they generalizing the data? You're learning more about that child. And as you get more information, you make better and better clinical decisions, you make them faster. So I think those are the things that are going to change. And I do see a world where every single parent will have on-demand access to care. And I think that in and of itself will transform this whole situation. I think you'll also see other profound innovators besides Frontera coming in, because this problem's too big to ignore.
The biggest thing that I remember when I first met you, Amol, the words that came out of your mouth, I think this is where the LinkedIn connection came, where I think it was a post you had where it was like, it's not about competing. It's about creating partnerships. And it's about, there's so many people that we got to take care of, that why are we competing, and we should all be working together, and who's good at what, bring it together and just go. And
Yeah.
that was like the first thing I was like, okay, I need to connect with this guy immediately.
Let me address, I want to make sure that this gets addressed. I am stunned. I'm stunned that any company in this industry, okay, given this condition, and as a parent, this is probably particularly offensive to me, would say that a clinic's data is their moat. I think that's unbelievable to me, that somebody would say, oh, well, you run on my system, so therefore I've built a moat around your data. And now all of these other things that could help you, tough luck. Like for a software company to do that is offensive. I don't care what the terms of service are, but as a parent in the autism sector, there's zero chance you would ever confront that with Frontera. Anyone can have access to that. I don't care if someone's building, if you're building a competitive version of what we're doing, fine, you can still use it. You want to integrate with us, you can integrate. You want to use it for free for foster kids and homeless, you can have, like the attitude has to be openness and let the investment, technology, whatever is the best is what people will use, right? But I have to say, building like people refusing to integrate technologies, people saying that data's are moats is not a reasonable position. And when you have a problem that is this serious, I would expect better of leaders in the industry. And I think there are some who are trending that direction. I hope so, but you will never, no matter what anybody does with us, we will always have the same attitude towards that. You want it, you can have it. And if it can help parents, your clinic, kids, we'll make it as accessible to you as we possibly can.
I think that's so important too, because it, again, you said it makes no sense as a parent. I don't think it makes sense as a person, right? We're dealing with people and supporting people, and our goal should be to give the most independence and opportunities to all aspects of life. Why are we stonewalling things? If something can improve your situation dramatically, why are we going, nope, hold on. I hear you, but you're with us now.
Capitalism.
I knew you were going to say it, but I mean,
yeah, but
again,
Sean, it's not capitalistic to say I built a motor on your data. I've never understood why clinics allow this.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, where they say, oh, sure, you built some software, sure, you can have, not only can you have my data, you get domain and access over it. And if you don't want other people interacting with it, that's fine with me. So exactly, who runs a clinic? Is it you or your software provider? And that to me, never made any sense to me, but there's a lot of historical reasons why people operate that way. And it's not unique just to this industry. I'll be honest with you. But because every so-called SaaS software company historically has thought this way. But now new technology, innovation, to your point about capitalism, now all of a sudden you don't have to, like, whether you're a clinic or another innovator, you have ways of dealing with that stuff. So look, I will commit, like, again, as a parent in this sector, I would never do that. And I would never do it. It's not a good business strategy, in my opinion, but I would never do it because as a parent, I wouldn't feel right about saying, I'm going to try to, hoard my access to your clinic, or I'm not going to let other people collaborate, or whatever the case is. That's, it's just a foreign concept at Frontera that would never happen here. And as a parent, I don't want to operate in business that way.
wow. Well, we greatly appreciate your time. Can you tell the audience who you are, where to find you, and if they need anything, how to get in touch?
Yeah. So Amol Deshpande, founder of Frontera. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just look me up. You'll find it. And I'm also on TikTok under @Frontera_AI_autism, and my handle's Practical Autism. So you can find me and reach out anytime. I always respond to any parent, anybody who inquires as best that I can. But listen, guys, I really appreciate you doing this podcast. I appreciate that you look at the industry in a different way. And thank you for having me as a guest.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure, Amol. I'm so happy you came on. I look forward to seeing you on the conference circuit. I look forward to your post on LinkedIn. I look forward to connecting on TikTok, maybe going live with you. But this was a great episode. Mike, take us out.
All right. You've been listening to Rad N Bad. We're here to make you think. Because whether it's Frontera Health or any other platform stepping in this space, the reality is technology isn't the solution. People are. Families are. The question is whether the tools we build actually support that or slowly replace it. So here's what we want you to take away from today. Don't get distracted by the speed. Don't get distracted by convenience, and definitely not by a buzzword. As always, stay critical, stay curious, and don't be afraid to challenge the field. We'll see you in the next time. Peace.
Peace.